So we're on Kufches Amid Beis, on the first wide line. At the first word, Ara dechad ubati dechad. This is not, we've been talking until now about Din Demar Metzia. This is like an interjection of a very similar case. This is talking about someone who, it sounds mostly like someone who leases land on someone else's property. The way Rashi. So we say he has a long-term lease on the house that's on the property. They say the land. I meant to say the house. He has a long-term lease on the house. So Mori Ara Ma'akev, the owner of the land can stop the owner of the house from selling the house. It's obviously more than a lease. It has some elements of purchase to it. I think that it's expected he's going to sell it back to him at the end. Amori Boti. I'm sorry. Mari Arma Akav Amari Boti. The owner of the land can stop the owner of the house from selling. Mari Boti Lam Akav Amari Dar. A similar case, Ara Dechad V'Dikli Dechad. One person owns the land and the other person owns the tree, the palm tree on it. Mari Dar Matzim Akav Amari Dikli Matzim Akav Amari Dar. Ara Labati. Now we're going back to Bar Metzia. So Ruvain owns a piece of land, and next door is Shimon, who also owns a piece of land. And now Levi wants to buy Ruvain's piece of land to build a house on it. And Shimon says, no, I'd like to buy Ruvain. I'm next door, and I'd like to use it to add it to my field. So Ara Labati v'Ara Lazar, if you have conflicting, where the Bar Metzia wants to use it to plant, and a different person, a purchaser, wants to buy it and build a house, Yishuv Adif. Because, like we said, I imagine this would only be in Eretz Yisrael. Even though Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi says Yishuv the Bhakti Adif, the Bezdin like Tiknu Kan Asois Yashav Shazu Mizu. Since it's being used for a higher use, we allow it to be sold to buy a house as opposed to for a field. So he doesn't say Mishav Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. He says as a general rule, we prioritize people building houses. Afsik Mishanisa Ayrichva. If there is a rock wall or a hedge, Richva de Dikla, or a hedge made out of trees, between the property that's adjoining this proposed sale property. So Shimon has the adjoining property, and Reuben wants to sell his property, but there's a barrier between the two. Chazina, we look. If there is some kind of opening in this barrier, there's a pirza, a break in the barrier, that even one row could connect the two adjoining properties. Then the din of Metzia applies, because the owner next door will have the efficiency of being able to have two adjoining fields and go quickly from one to the other. But if there's no way, you have to walk around the field, then it doesn't have the advantage of being adjoining. Hani dalot b'nei mitrani, the kadam chad minayu v'zavin, zvina zvini. If there are four people that are all adjoining a single field, and one of them goes ahead and purchases it, so he can buy it. He has a dinner by Metzia just like the other three. We're talking about, I don't know what picture you have. My picture, you have one field in the middle and four around it. The middle one is the one that's being sold. So if any of the four buy it, that's fine. He owns the field. But if they all say we want to buy it, they all assert their rights as bar metzia, then they're going to have to split the field. Pagula bekanzel. You divide it up as triangles. Basically, each gets the flat side, and then they get coming from there. They get a triangle. You divide the field into the four corners with one triangle for each one of the four ruchas. Just hold on a second. I'm going to go turn on the air conditioner. Okay. Someone who rents a field from his friend for a small amount of years. First of all, this is Makabel is a chaycher. He's going to pay a set fee, and the Shana Muatas is not so small, as we'll see. It means if he rents it for less than 7 years, lo yizrana pishtan, he can't plant in it flax. Flax is a valuable crop, but it depletes the nutrients in the field. And he also can't harvest the sycamore branches, which are a valuable wood, because again, once you take it off, it takes 7 years for it to regrow. The same thing with the pishtan. If you grow pishtan, it takes 7 years for the land to rejuvenate. However, if he agreed to rent the property for 7 years, in the first year, then that leaves 7 years for it to grow back. So the owner, by the time he gets it back, these will have been rejuvenated. The land will not suffer from the effects of having pishtan grown on it 7 years later, and the shikma will grow back. But that means only the first year. The second year already, he's not going to be allowed to do so because that's already going to eat into the time after his Kabbalah. But if he's makabel it for 15 years, then he could do it for the first 8 years. The point is he has to have 7 years after he stops doing this to bring the land back to the owner in its original state. Amar Abaya, b'kair shikma, ein loy. He can't harvest these beams. However, since he has, when he does leave, and now when he leaves, there's going to be additional branches, or these beams have grown and become more valuable in the time that the kablan, the scheicher, was watching the field. So when he leaves, he has an entitlement to get paid, to be compensated for the value he's added to the field. Rava says he doesn't get that either. Someone who rented a property from his friend. I should say the reason why this is only by a chakira and not by a stam aris, Rashi explains, because stam aris, the owner will be happy for him to benefit as much as possible because he's getting a percentage of whatever payers are taken. So he wants to use it up. So therefore, we're talking over here where there's a set fee, and therefore the owner asserts his rights that he doesn't want any permanent damage done, or even long-term damage. Metzia. But in any case, we have some machlokes between Abaya and Rava about who gets, whether the makabel, the scheicher, the person who's renting, is entitled to be compensated when he leaves for the value added in the increase in the shikma branches. Metzia. Someone who rented a house, rented a sada, and the time came for him to leave. Shamanlay, we make an evaluation. This would seem to indicate what kind of shuma do you make at at the end, we would imagine that's talking about what has been increased. Other than that, he just leaves. So what do you make neshuma for? Make a shuma about the beets, I think, and the vegetables. Why do you have to make an evaluation for them? If there's anything grown, the Aris is entitled to take it. He pays a fee, in return he's allowed to take whatever grows. So let him just take it out of the ground and sell it. Why are we making a shoe on it? So no, we're talking about where it's not available to sell yet. And in those days they didn't have refrigeration. So once you took the romaine lettuce out of the ground, within 2 days it's no good. You left it growing until you wanted to use it. So this guy was stuck. He couldn't take it out. It would just go to waste. So therefore, we make a shum. So this is not a raya to our question about whether shvach is a compensation to the lender, to the renter when he leaves. Toshma, makabel sada mechaber, v'higia shvius. Someone who was makabel sada, he rented a sada, and Shemitah came. Shaman like. You make a shuma. It's like the Shvius Mika Mafka Ara. What are we talking about? Make a shuma. What does Shvius have to do with anything? When it comes Shvius and you can't eat in it, but it doesn't mean that it goes back to the owner. Shaman like. So what is even Shvius? There is such a thing that Yovel is mafkia a land from a purchaser. Shvi is not Metzia from anyone. Yovel is mafkia from a lekech, but when he's not a lekech, he's a renter. Kablonis, mi mafkas kablonis. Does Yovel take away from kablonis? The Torah says a lashon of tzmisus that you can't sell something permanently, but a kablonis was never intended to be permanent, so there's no reason for Yovel to be mafkia. Elema. Elamai, we have to say this is talking about an entirely different case. Someone who purchased the land from his friend, then we make a shuma. So you're going to want to say that this is also talking about Yarka v'Silka. It can't be talking about Yarka Silka. Silka v'Yarka v'Yovel efkiru. He wouldn't be able. There would be no improvements in that regard. That means that you can't say that you make a shuma for it, because they become valueless when Shemitah comes, because you can't sell them. Elav shvach shikma. Elamai talking about shvach shikma, and we're saying that when Yovel comes, someone who purchased a land, we make a shuma on the shvach shikma. So the Gemara wants to say, let's make a tzushtel, just like when you sell land, when your land is taken away from you, from a purchaser, because of Shemitah, we make a omdana, we evaluate how much improvement he made to the land, and the original owner has to compensate him. So let's say the same thing for a chaycher when the end of his term comes up. So tomorrow, no, that's not a comparison. Damakra, v'yotza mimka bias, mimka chayzer, shvach eine chayzer. The Torah says at the end of the period, whoever sold the house will be taken away from him. The sale is returned to its original owner, but the shvach does not go back. It's like the more of enigma. Okay, so there's a pasuk that tells you that's what you do by shvius. But why don't we say, let's learn from there that that's the rule also by a kablan who leaves? Why don't we compare the two? We're saying
according to Abaya, right?
Yeah.
We had the bright like.
We said Tirgama Abaya Aliba de Rava. Abaya is helping out Rava here. It was a kasha on Rava. Rava says I feel b'shach shikanami ain't like, but we're seeing over here that when Yovel comes, the purchaser is compensated for the shvach. So let's say it's the same din.
What I'm saying, the bright said right?
Yeah.
According to what's in Memka Chayzer Shvach in a Chayzer, right? Meaning the shvach stays with the tenant. with the purchaser. And now we're comparing it, right? No,
We said
it's
yeah.
Xeris Hakasa,
The shvach stays with the shvach stays with the owner. That was Rava's contention. He does that. There's no compensation to the tenant, to the renter for the shvach. So we're asking, but we see over here that he does get to keep. So we're saying, let's say it's Xeris Hakasa. Oh, so he says Shani it's a Xeris Hakasa. But the Gemara says, let's say let's learn out from the Xeris Hakasa there to say the same thing should be here. V'nigma minei, zok the Gemara hasam zvinim al yehu b'yovel afkaita demalku. The Gemara says you can't learn out from there because it's obviously a different circumstance. The Torah, it's a full-fledged sale, so there's no reason. Once there's a sale, the original owner has no rights at all, and then the Torah said, no, you have to give it back. But what the Torah said is limited to what the Torah said. Masha Enkin over here by a Kabbalah, it was with the contemplation that it was eventually going to go back to the owner. So why? Maybe over there, it all belongs to the original owner. Rapapa Kabul Ara Las Basasa. Rapapa rented land to build to grow on it aspasasa, which is fodder. Katchu Batali. And it happened to be that some date trees grew on it. He kamistalik, when Rapapa was leaving, Amalahu Havalu Shvacha. I want to be paid. You got a bonus. You're getting back a field of fodder, and you have these valuable date trees that sprouted in it. I should be paid for the improvement that I made. Amler of Shisha Breda Vidal Rapapa, Elamiata, Dikov Alam Hachanami de Boy Mar Shvache. Had there already been date trees and they grew, you would also ask to be compensated for that? Obviously not. If someone rents is makabel a sada with date trees and the trees get thicker and they produce more dates, that's just a natural progression. There's no reason why the Kabbalah should be compensated.
No, that's not what Abaya says.
Abaya says that he's talking about shvach that he put into it. It's something that he had groomed or caused to happen. The B'kaira Shikma, it's a little hard to understand. I understand your objection. Why are we assuming Dikla V'alim that it's not? How is that different? I'll tell you what the difference is. The difference is that Dikla V'alim is part of the Keren of the field. The Kaira Shikma over there, that's what a sycamore tree is intended to be used as lumber. So that's more like the Paris. So he's saying that there is a shvach, there's an increase in the Paris of the field, and I'm entitled to Paris while I'm here. I can't take it away because it's a permanent thing. But I should be compensated that I'm losing part of it. Amalei, he said to him, you can't compare this, that a palm tree, a date tree sprouted, to that which a date tree grew. Amalei, hasam lava daita de hachinachas. I know. It's true. I never intended that I would get shvach from a date tree that's already there from it growing. Over here, I came in and I had expected that I would get the benefit of what grew. Zakt Gemara, Kaman Kabaya. This is like Abaya. The Ama B'Shrach Shikma Yeshay. So Gemara feel Temakarava. Awesome. Lesla played the Hacha Ikap Seda. Gemara says no. I'll tell you what the nafkamin is. Even according to Rava over here, there would be a the Kabbalah would be entitled even according to Rava, there'd be some entitlement over here because when a date tree grows on the land, that takes away from the land the arable land that the tenant, that the the borrower, the renter, can use to plant the aspasosa. So he's losing part of his land. Amalei, my psaticha yada daspasasa, shkol yada daspasasa. So he answered him back. If that's what we're talking about, that you lost the space of this tree, that's 10 cents worth of aspasasa. Go ahead, you can get that kind of pseda, that kind of shvach. I don't mind giving you. It's a minimal amount. You were originally saying you wanted the shvach of a brand new tree, which is a much more significant amount. Shkol yadid aspasas of zil, you could take that. Amalei, he said back to him, I think this was Rapapa, Anok kurkuma rishka reboy. He said, like we brought before, I wanted to make a little saffron patch. When we're talking about the surveyors, we said the surveyors have to be careful because every little bit can be valuable. So he said, yeah, I was going to plant saffron in that place. He said, so now you're showing that you wanted to go ahead and take. He says, so now you're saying that you don't want the shvach of what you improved, but rather you wanted to just take the peiros of what you could have produced in that time. So just take, if you're only taking what you could have produced, what you would have produced in the end was not a kurkuma de rishka, you would have produced aspasasa. So take that. Rashi. Let's say Amalei, Medika Amrit kurkuma rishka riboy, Shudavam Haniksa B'chol Shana, Lemata Ana Talia Yusinaita. From the fact that you're talking about planting saffron and you're not talking about the actual tree. You weren't planning to plant anything. He's saying, listen, this whole kurkuma de rishma is a fantasy, right? You were planting over here aspasasa, and you have a date tree. All you're entitled to is the actual produce, the peiros of this tree. But so what's the peiros of this tree? Theoretically, you could sell the tree for wood. So that's what you're entitled to. I mean, I don't understand exactly why we're talking about the red herring of a kurkuma and the rishma. He didn't rent the property to plant saffron. He rented it for aspasasa. So he's saying, okay, so now there's something a little bit more valuable, but it's only more valuable in the sense that you could sell the wood for the peiros of that tree. But more than that, you're not entitled to. You're not entitled to the actual tree itself. Rabbi Abaya, Kabul Ara. Rabbi Abaya rented a property, Bahadar lay Mishunisa, Katkuba Zardosa. And there was a rocky outcrop on the edge of the field, and the Zardosa tree grew on it. He asked, he's similar to the last case. There's a tree that grew. I want the shvach of that tree. Since you come from bad stock, there's the whole problem with the Bnei Eli, and you come from that family. That's why you're saying a shvachataina. I feel a papal the islay pseda. Hachamai pseda islay. That was only a pup that a date tree in the previous case. It grew up in the middle of the aspasasa, took away from the land that's available to grow. This is on a rocky outcrop. Nothing would have grown from it anyway, so you lost nothing and you have no entitlement. So this is a different type of schirus. This is, Rashi explains, a shasla. Noite kerem bekarka balabayis. It's basically someone he's like a developer. Oh, he came just on time. Talking about a new type of compliment. On Koftesa and Aleph, about halfway down in the wide lines. Rabbi Yosef Havalahu Shasta. He hired someone, person had an empty field, and he hired essentially a developer. He says, come in, I want you to plant vines and grow them, and you're going to get half of anything that's produced from these vines. This person was more than an aris. An aris just comes into a regular field and he maintains what's there. But this is a person who is actually putting in some capital improvements. So Rabbi Yosef had such a person that he had hired. Shachav, and this Shasla died, and he left behind his kids, and his kids, he left behind 5 Adams. That's probably why he died. It was too much for him. His heart gave out. So he wanted the 5 Adams all wanted to take over the getting the half of the produce of this land. Amar, Rabbi Yosef said back, till now there was one person had this one shasla, hashla chamisha. Now it's going to be 5 people sharing. Until now there's just one guy doing it, so he did everything. And there was no problems. Hashla chamisha, now if it's going to come 5 people all together, and they're all going to say, let you do it, nothing's ever going to get done, right? Right? There's always, you get more done with one person who's responsible than when 5 people are responsible for something. Amlahu, Ishaklisu shvuchayu mistalkum muta. V'iloi misaklikna lechu b'loi shvach. So Rabbi Yosef said to them, listen, if you go away, if you're willing to leave, I'll let you go, and I'll also give you your share of the profits. The Gemara is going to explain what the share of the profits, how we're going to calculate it. But if you don't leave, if you fight me, then I'm going to still get you out, and I'm not going to give you the shvach. The Amar Rav Yehuda, Vitem Rav Huna, Vitem Rav Nachman, Hai Shasla the Shachav, when a Shasla dies, Yarshim delay mistalkum hu b'loi shvacha. You can get rid of the Yarshim without having to pay for the improvements. Love Milsi, but however, the Gemara said this was all just a threat, an empty threat. We taka don't paskin like this, that we said b'shem Rav Yehuda and Rav Huna v'tem Rav Nachman, that you can get a shasla out without paying him the shvach. There's no such thing. You actually have to pay the shvach. So again, this shasla, let's remind ourselves. We're about 10 lines from the bottom. We're talking about a shasla. A shasla is a new kind of kabbalah and a new kind of sacher. Someone who comes down into a field, different kind of aris, that he comes in and he develops the field, he makes improvements to it, and then he's entitled to get every year half of the peiros. And as we see from the end of this Gemara, he also, when he leaves, he's entitled to a portion of what he's invested into the field to make it better. Hahu shasal the amalu imafsedina misalkana. He told the owner of the field, listen, I'm coming in, I'm developing it. He was very eager to get the job. And he said, if I cause any loss, if I'm not careful, I don't properly maintain the property, I'm going to leave. And ifsid, and let's talk what happened. He was washing the field and he took a day off and it got ruined. Some part of it got ruined. Amr Yehuda mistalik b'loi shvacha. Since he volunteered, he agreed to leave. So when he leaves, not only does he have to leave, but he no longer gets the shvach, he no longer gets the peiros, he also leaves without that payment that we've been talking about, that a shasla is entitled when he leaves, the payment for the improvements he made. Rav Kahana Amar Mistalik b'shakol shvach. He does get the shvach. He could kick him out, but he gets the shvach. Umayder Kahana di Amar itpasidna mistalkana b'loi shvacha. Rakana said the only reason why he's getting the shvach is because he said, I'll leave. He didn't say, I'm going to leave without getting what I'm entitled to. But had he agreed from the beginning that if I make a hefsid, that I'll leave without asking for my shvach, then he doesn't get the shvach. Rava disagrees even with this last member of Kana. Even if he explicitly said, if I make a hefsid, I'm going to leave without getting my shvach, that's a smachti, v'asmachta leikanya. He's accepting upon himself a penalty, but he never expected it to happen. That's what we've always seen, that Rava holds an asmachta lekanya. Even though he said it, he never thought it was going to happen, and therefore he still will get compensated for the improvements that he made. We're talking about over there a cobbler.
Hold on, so there's three machlekes. Is Rabbi Yehuda being mechalek with Rava? Rava's explaining.
Rabbi Yehuda is a it's a three-way machlekes. That means in Rav Kahana, it's a machlekes. First, Rabbi Yehuda says he can go just stam the lashon, mistalik b'lo shvacha. Rav Kahana says, that means he says the stam lashon includes that he's the makabel on himself to go out without shvacha. And he's obviously not worried about asmachta, even though it's just, he didn't even say it clearly, he's not worried about the asmachta.
So what's the chiluk between Yehuda and Rava?
Rabbi Yehuda said, Rabbi Yehuda said that if someone said, I'm going to leave if I make a hefsek, he has to leave and he loses the shvach. And he didn't even say clearly that I'm going to leave without getting paid for my improvements. But even so, Rava says we imputed into his words that he's agreeing to leave without getting compensated for improvements. Even had he said it clearly, it would be, Rava would say it's an asmachta, because he doesn't think it's going to happen. That's getting paid for the improvements is an extra penalty over and above the hefs that he did. Rav Kahana says, just the fact that it's imputed, we don't impute into him the words, and therefore we'd let him leave without it. He would leave, but he would still get the shvach because he never said anything about the shvach. So we don't impute that into his words. But if Rav Kahana does say, had he said that he's going to give up on the improvements, then he would lose them. But Rava says, even this thing of Rav Kahana, I don't agree with, because you have a problem that it's an asmachta, like
other side of it.
Yeah. How is this different from that which we had in the Mishnah earlier? A regular Kablan who says, I'm going to, if I don't develop the land, I'm going to compensate you, and he doesn't, and and he didn't work the land. He didn't work the land. He has to pay fully, even though over there also he was makabel on himself a penalty. Over there, it's that which he agreed to compensate the owner for the fact that the tenant didn't do any work, and therefore there's no percentage going to the owner. That's taka. He's not agreeing. He's not making a smata where he's going to pay extra. The penalty is not more than the damage he did. He's saying, I'm agreeing that I'm going to pay for the damage that I do. Over here, certainly, even if you pay him for the shvach, you're going to take off the amount of the hefsed that he did. So over here, when he's agreeing that he's not going to get paid for improvements, that's over and above what we're menaka him because of the hefsed he did. So over here, we're talking about a punitive agreement, and that's an asmachta, and that's why Rava is mechal. The rest of it we would give. Runya Shasla de Ravina. Runya, this fellow named Runya, was the Shasla, he was the developer of Ravina's vineyard, Afsid. And he caused damage as he was, after he installed we're going to see, he's talking about he installed these vines, these grapevines, he caused damage to them, so he got rid of him. Also, Kamei de Rava, he said, look, Ravina kicked me out from my job. I'm like Shaper of it. He said he did the right thing. You did have sense, so therefore he kicked you out. You didn't give me a hasra. I deserved a warning. You don't have to give a hasra in this case. Rav is going l'shitasa d'amar Rava. Mikri da'adiki, someone who is a teacher of children, a shasla, or this kind of developer, tavcha, a butcher, umna. Umna is either a mile or a bloodletter. The safer masa, someone who's the cipher. Kulan kamusrim v'ayim dami. All of them they don't get any warnings. It's one strike and you're out. Chol the milsa, and what's the reason? Because the rule is kol pseida delay hadar kamusrim v'ayim dami. Any kind of pseida that a person does that can't be fixed, you have to be extremely careful from the beginning. So all these things, a mikri dardaki, as we all know, you're a teacher of children, you mess up. It's very hard to undo the damage that you do. And a shasla is someone who cares for vines, so he installs the vines. If he messes them up, the vines die, and it's too late. Tavcha, if he shechts improperly, the animal's strafe. And the umna, goes without saying, that's a big problem. The safer masa, a cipher, also he makes a mistake in a sefer, often it can't be fixed. Ahu shasla. A what? Omna is a blood letter. That was the form of doctors that they had then. I don't know that they're any different there. I don't know if the doctors there are any better. Yeah. I'm a little salty because I saw one of these exchanges with a doctor who was arguing with someone on Twitter about how they did everything right during COVID. Still insisting nothing was their fault.
Actually, different than any other profession.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't think any. Listen, maybe other people wouldn't say that they're right, but we all know that they're wrong. Electricians make mistakes, and HVAC guys.
Yeah, you've met an HVAC guy that would admit.
No, they
exactly. That's the same thing. Yeah. I'm right now my HVAC guy. It's like it's my fault.
Yeah, but that's much more complicated than being a doctor.
An engineer.
Yeah. Ahu Shasla. There was this developer. He said, I'm ready to leave. I want to get compensated for my improvements to be in the Lamesa Klar of Israel. I got to go to Eretz Israel. Now, in order to understand this, the Rashi gives a very complicated explanation. We're going to have a mathematical explanation, but the basis of this explanation is going to be based on where this guy put in 6 vines, and each vine, let's say, was worth $100. It's valued at $100. Also, Kameder Papa. So he wants to be compensated for the $600 of shvach, of improvement that were made into this property. Also, Kameder Papa Bashmul. Amalahu, Pabulei Shvacha. Yeah, you got to. You got to compensate him when he's leaving. Amalei Rava. Iu Ashvach, Aralei Ashvach. What are you saying? So he gets the whole $600 that he put in these vines, but it's only half him. Part of the improvements is allocable to the land that provided the nutrients and provided the place for these improvements. I meant that half of it should go to him. Amalei, I don't ever have a shakal balabais palga. B'shasla palga. So he said to him, you're saying you should give half and half. Until now, half of the produce, the peiros, would come to the owner, and half would go every year, half of what was produced. Right? There's 2 separate things. First, we're talking about the improvements. Now we're talking about every year it produces half of the peiros go split 50-50. This owner is no longer going to be able to get his full amount without hiring an aris who gets typically, he has to pay him a third of what's produced. So now he's going to be getting less because he's going to have to pay an aris. So Amalei Riva de Shvacha Ka'amina. He said, no, you're right, that's taka taina, that now there's an extra expense on the owner. I meant he should only get a quarter of the shvach. So Rav Ashi Lameimer, he thought, what is this river, this quarter? River de Hudankat. He thought when he said a quarter, it actually amounts to 1/6 of the entire property. That means until now, the value of the vines was 600, like we said. But he said that he made the cheshbon like this. This is what the Gemara is going to explain. In a place where the shasla gets half of the peiros and an arisa gets a third of the peiros, hi shasla the boy staluke, this shasla wants to leave, which is our case. So we don't want a hefset to come to the balabais. So how do we look at it? We say this balabais, what would happen? If we say a quarter, which is the sixth, meaning that we look at it like this, that half of the property, half of the peiros belongs to the owner. In order for him to get an aris, he's going to have to give up a third of that. So he's only left with. Let me see Rashi. River. The trade. Ravashi. Some Ravashi lemei river. The trade tilsi hamagin lebal habayis. Because 2/3 that go to the balabais after he gives a third to give to the aris, so yarillah to danka b'chol shvach hakerem. That's 1/6 of the entire keren. If the entire improvements is 6 dinim, you take out a third. Also litin la'aris that you have to give to aris. You have to give 2/3 to the aris. Noisri dal dinim, and then what's left is 4 dinim. Mehen yitel hashesel dinar b'hainu river. But my dematel balabais do danka the shvacha kula. After we deduct the amount that you have to pay the aris, which is 1/3. So from 6, you take out a third, so that leaves you with 4, and then you have 4. You give a quarter of that to the shop, because like we said, you're leaving, and we're both involved in this. So also lead the house, no straight down, didn't hand you to a shuttle dinner behind the river. That's how you get a quarter. That's what I'm saying. That's how the quarter, which is really a 1/6 after you deducted the amount that you have to pay the yards.
We just one time 6 vines.
The 6 vines.
$300 goes to the.
But we're not saying $300 go. We're saying $100 go to the shasla when he leaves. And the theory is like this. Right now, before we do anything, he's going to have to compensate for the future, for the foreseeable future. Now he's going to have to hire an aris to replace the work of the shasla to be able to provide, etc., to be able to keep it as an ongo. So that 2 out of 6 we take off the top, and that's going to have to be that we're not looking at those 2. So you're left with 4.
At the time this guy's leaving, we're going to have to hire another shasla for 200.
For basically for a third. The whole thing is worth 6. So whatever. We're switching back and forth between the value and what it produces. But the point is, what it produces represents that value. Every year he's going to have to give what 2/3 of what it produces. So let's say 100. Let's say each vine is worth $100. Each year produces 10. So he has to give away that. By giving away what it produces, that basically takes off the value off the table. So it represents the value.
So he's the new shasla. I'm getting confused with what the old shasla gets and the new shasla gets.
There's no new shasla. It's a new aris.
So the
aris has a different deal. The shasla was getting 50%.
Right, and the shasla.
The shasla was getting 50%. The aris was getting a third. Gets a third.
Why is he getting less than the?
Because the aris was the shasla is a developer. And he came and he installed the vines at the beginning, so he gets a better deal. And now he's leaving, so obviously he's not going to get peiros anymore. But he's going to get his share of the improvements that were made.
He gets 2 off the top. And you're left with 4.
So you leave 2 off the top because you have to provide for the work that now he's leaving. So now so it leaves 4, and we're saying a quarter of that should go to the shas, the initial shas. That's a mehen yitel hashesel dina v'hainu river. But my dematel balabais do danka the shvacha kul. So zaktimar eliyamrit river mamish. If you would say he gets an actual river, he gets a quarter, meaning go 1.5 of of the whole thing, right? A quarter of 6 would be 1.5. Then that would be a damage to the balabais. Palgadanka, of half of a danka. Say the balabais chatzidina, Eli Amrit River Mamish, Dina Vachatzi, Paris Yito Shlish Shehain Beis Dinrin, say the balabais of Chatzi dinner. He's losing a half a dinner from his half. Zok to Gemara. Amle Ravacha Breder of Yosef Ravashi v'leimalei ant mansa diloch havle larisa v'ano mansa li my debina avitna bay my davidna bay delay my davidna bay yeah I'll v'ano mansa li my debina avitna bay. I'm going to do with it as I wish. Let the Shasla tell him back like this. I don't like your cheshbon. Look at it like this. I'm entitled to half of the shvach, of the improvements. So I'm going to let you do like this. Let's take off. You have to be able to get your 3 at the end. You're entitled to get 3. So in order for you to get 3, which is half of the improvements, all you need to get is 4.5. If you get 4.5, then 1/3 of that will be 1.5, and the other 3 will be left as shvach for you, and that will still leave you that you're getting your full shvach, and the other 1.5, then I should be entitled. I could do with it as I wish. If I want, I could hire an aris. If I want, I could not hire an aris. That belongs to me. I'm really entitled. So what are we doing? We're saying that you have to pay me for it. Good. So if you're willing to pay me for that 1.5, then I'll leave it behind. But you should really have to pay me for 1.5, not for 1, like you were saying, in order for me to be fully compensated.
Meaning the new aris will get less, but there's less there.
No. In the end, he's certainly going to have to hire a new aris on the whole thing. And it's going to be, the new aris is not going to get less. And he's essentially, the Shasla is selling his chelik to the owner. But that's the value when you sell it. A taka is worth 150 or 1.5 dinars. So then afterwards, you're going to have to hire an aris on my section. That's your prerogative if you want to hire aris afterwards. But don't take away from my value because of the fact that I'm giving you your half, that you're ending up with the value of 3 at the end. So the other, and I'm even taking into account that you're going to have to reduce it by 1/3. And then there's another 1.5 that belongs to me. So listen, one way to look at it is I could go and cut down those vines and go, and they won't be worth anything very much if you cut them down. They're much more valuable there. And obviously the situation deteriorated. We can't work together on it. But listen, I'm going to sell them to you, and whatever they're worth, that's what I'm selling them to you for. If you have to then hire an aris for that part, that's not my problem. And I know it's complicated, the back and forth here of what the tinus are.
The Shasha could actually cut off the vines.
He's entitled to. He's entitled to the improvements that he made. It's his. He's not going to get anything out of it. What he cuts down the vines, they're worthless. You could sell them for a little bit of wood. They're much more valuable in the ground. So, Zaktamar, let's go a little bit weiter. Amar kimato shchitas kachim tova actually. He said to him, that's a very good taina. When we get to kachim, which is the most complicated mesechta, come, I want to talk to you and learn it because you're such a smart guy. Guf Amar Miyuni Breder Reb Nechumi. Ba'asa the shakol shisla palga ba'arisa tilsla. He's just repeating what we just said. In a place where the shasla gets half and an arisa gets 1/3, hi shasla, the boy is still looking. You give him a shvach and he leaves. The lay lifts it balabais, an amount that the balabais should not lose. Amr of Yuni Breder Reb Nechumi. Kupa Saba Palgo, a Kupa Saba Kava, an old geffen, an old vine, so that it has to that a shasla had put in, and he gets a half of it. Shafvanor river, but if it's taken away by a river, he gets a quarter. So now, because over there we're not talking about Shafvanor. It's not something that expired, that it's shvach. It's really Kubasaba, it's Paris, and the shas is entitled to half. Shafvanor, which really is the end of the deal because something happened, he gets a quarter. Someone who gave us a mashkin. Okay, you know what? We're gonna have to try to do this tonight because we have to do at least 1.5 blot. Okay, so Luzi, you think you'll be available tonight?
Hope so. Not sure, but I hope so.
Okay. Anyone else think there's a possibility?